Can anybody always be positive all the time? Do you know somebody who's always positive all the time? If you do, or do you know somebody who's negative all the time? Is there a way they could be positive? So that's what this episode is about. Welcome to Be a Better Person, and today is about positivity. So I don't know if it's possible for you to be positive all the time. I don't know if somebody can always be positive. Is positive the same thing as being happy? I don't think that's the case either. I think positivity is about finding the good things even out of bad things. It's about looking at the glass as half full instead of half empty. Taking the things that happen through our life, these situations that we're put in, and try to find the good in them instead of wallowing in the bad. There's some things that you can maybe find nothing good in, when a relative goes, but maybe the relative suffered for a long time. So when they pass, that's the positive part that you can get out of it, is that they're not in pain anymore. That's kind of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about positivity. And again, always remember on all these videos, these things are what I feel, and I'm just trying to maybe get some input from you guys about how you feel or how you cope or however. So please comment if there's something that resonates with you. And I don't think that anybody can always be happy. You can't be happy all the time. You can't be positive all the time. And even though maybe something happens that you're not positive, to maybe reflect later on about how that situation or what the positive thing is that you got out of that situation, or maybe you learned something from the situation. And so that's the positive part. I mean, like I said, it doesn't mean you're always happy. It doesn't mean that you can't be disappointed. It doesn't mean that everything's always rainbows and unicorns. It just means that you try to find the positive things out of what happens. Because life's going to throw you curves. You're going to have ups and downs. You're going to have some things where you think that nothing's ever going to change. Trust me, I have been in some places that I thought were the worst ever. And then you know what? It gets better. It doesn't always stay bad, especially if you work at trying to make it not bad. Like I said, there's been times that I felt trapped in my life, and I was like, oh, what's the way out? What's the way out? And, I'm going to be frank, I've just been, hey, you're Kip Pomranke. You're going to make this work. You're going to find a way. And so I've always stayed positive. Yeah, again, has there been times wallow a little bit, but then bounce back and go, hey, this is what I learned from this. This is what I can do to try and be better. These things are, especially because there's things that you're never going to be able to control, that you can't control throughout life. You can't control how other people are going to respond, how your job's going to go, that maybe you're not going to get laid off, that maybe something's not going to work right. So those things are going to happen, and you got to just focus. So I'm going to tell you about two things personally in my life. So I got out of college. Shout out to Sam. You know who you are. First of all, because I never would have thought I could go to college because we were poor. Anywho, I got out of college. For the first 3 months that I was out, I really tried to work at getting something related to the field that I had went into. And it just wasn't working out. And finally, I came to a point, didn't have my own car. Didn't get my own car till I was 22 years old. And so my mom had a car, thank goodness, and that's who I lived with. And I found a job not very far away, and it was working for a horse farm. She had horses, mostly just for her own pleasure. They were Arabian stallions, mainly. They were some mares. They did breed and sell some colts, but mainly it was just for her thing. They did board a few horses. So my job, first and foremost, mainly was to shovel horse poop. And most people would be completely pissed. I have a college degree and I'm shoveling horse poop. But luckily I had grown up poor and did a lot of jobs to try and make money. So to me, it didn't bother me. I was just like, oh, good, I have money. And I'm not going to date myself, 1989 or 88. It was still 88. $3, I think, an hour that I made. And so, you could have been just devastated thinking that you went to college to earn all this money and to do these things. But I was just happy I had a job and that I was making money and could do things. Because of course my life at that time was not huge. I didn't have a lot of expenses, some college debt to pay off, but I just was back to a place of earning money. So that's how I looked at that positive. So another time I had another situation is I had the same job from 1989 to 2004, and I got kind of recruited by an insurance company to become an insurance agent. Be your own boss, entrepreneurial. And again, I don't mean to slam anything. I'm just saying you didn't make any decisions whatsoever. And actually, they really frowned on your hours if you didn't do the right hours that they wanted. But they decided who you could write, who you couldn't write, how they were going to pay a claim, what rates you were going to pay. You couldn't even go like, oh, hey, here's my buddy. I'm going to give you a few dollars. No, it's all set in stone. Nothing you can do to change it. And so after all the entrepreneurial stuff, I was kind of bummed about that. So I was a little vocal about my not liking the rules and not trying to do certain things or push certain products that they wanted me to push, because I moved to a town where I didn't know anybody. I wanted to develop some relationships with these people first, and you can't sell people a product when they can barely pay for their one product. So anyways, during that whole time, I was up like 30-some% in health policies, 20-some% in auto policies. I was like 15% in homeowners policies and 5% in life insurance policies. But yet I was told that I wasn't good enough. They weren't going to renew my contract. That I wasn't a good leader. In the same time frame, I coached a basketball team that won the conference tournament. I got elected to the board of the chamber board. And usually they didn't have enough people, but somebody else wanted to, so they couldn't just appoint me. So it was actually an election, and me only being in the town for 10 months got elected. But I had felt like I failed. Like I failed because I didn't get the contract renewed, even through all my efforts and all these numbers that I thought were positive, and they didn't renew my contract. And so I was kind of devastated initially because I thought I failed. But then when I reflect on it, it only took a month or so, maybe 2 months, before I finally said, I hated that job. I didn't like the rules. So why are you so disappointed they didn't renew your contract? If they would have renewed my contract, I would have continued trying to do the best job I could so that I wouldn't have failed. And who knows, I'd probably be still doing that today and being unhappy about it possibly. And might not have went through all the things that I went through to finally make sure that I care about my happiness and whatever. So another thing that I turned it into a positive, that I was like, man, I really didn't want to keep doing that job. So I'm kind of glad that I was out. So I took it from thinking I failed to saying, it was positive. And so again, I think that if you manifest things, like people who do the vision boards or people who always see the good in things, I think the more that you go with positivity, the more that positive things are going to come back to you. Whereas I've watched people who are always negative, and it seems like negative things are always happening to them because they don't always look at, think, yes, this is what's going to happen. I am going to will this to be that way. And as far as also not just situations that we can't control, finding the positive in them, also with relationships, back to the same thing. If you're going to be judgmental, if you're going to give unsolicited advice to people who don't ask for it, if you're going to question how they feel and how they think, they're not probably going to want to be around you. Whereas if you're talking people up, if you're being positive with them, if you're lifting them up and telling them they can do that that they're good enough to be able to do that, they're going to want to be around you a lot more. They're going to feel like you're a support person, and they're going to value you even more. So positivity in relationships is still better than even negativity. And again, let's explain that these are things that I continue to work on, that I have to stop myself from doing those things. And again, it's not easy after being a certain way for such a long period of time to then change those things around. But again, I just think that the more positive you can stay, even through bad situations, even through when you're not really feeling it, or you think that life's not being fair or treating you the right way, just always try to keep that positivity up. And then you're going to have better relationships. You're going to be able to look at things differently. And it's work. It for sure takes work. I mean, again, it doesn't just happen overnight. You can't just go, I'm going to be positive. Then something bad happens to you. Yep, still going to be positive. It's a mindset. It's about trying to change. So again, in the comments, anything that you can think of that was a terrible situation that you turned positive, any things that you do to try and remind yourself to stay positive, and some things that help keep you positive even through negative situations. It'd be awesome if you could share those. And so remember, your smile makes me smile. Be kind, be grateful, be helpful. And until next time, have a great day.